In this video, I'm going to give you an overview of an anxious attachment style, as well as look in detail at the cycle and loop that you can get stuck in when your anxious attachment is activated. So when you're triggered, if something happens and you suddenly get into this state of anxiety related to your relationships and love life, it may well be that you can relate to this cycle. Now, it's really useful to look at this loop because one, it's going to help you to have a better chance when you are in the loop, when you are triggered. It's going to give you that better chance of being able to break free. It's going to give you a better chance now of future planning and preparing for when these situations might occur so that it's not as intense. Or it's going to help you to realize, I relate to that. I can see myself in this, and that can be really powerful because then you're going to know or have more chance of knowing your next move should you wish to take one. And of course, I do recommend if you do and you want to understand your cycle more, my free course, Attachment Styles, the Next Level, helps you to take what I'm talking about today and look at your situation. Really, really useful for that. So that's what we are going to do. So let me start by introducing myself. So I'm Carly Ann. I help women who suffer in dating, love, and relationships by supporting you to interrupt and reshape your attachment style, heal past pain, and develop your true sense of self. I am determined to put an end to you feeling too much, crazy, or needy by giving you the inside scoop on why love makes you feel that way and delivering an up-to-date blend of holistic methods to help you heal safely and intuitively. You deserve to feel heard, seen, empowered, supported, and you deserve to experience extraordinary, meaningful relationships where your needs are met too. Whether working with you in a community space or one-to-one, I'm certain you have found the coach you've been searching for. So the anxious attachment of the different styles is the one that I hugely relate to the most. I definitely am more secure now than I have ever been. So I know that we can heal attachment wounds. I definitely discovered more avoidant attachment as I did the work and uncovered, peeling back those layers. I discovered that avoidance there as well, but nothing has hit me quite like that anxious attachment style. And I think that's why most of my clients not all, but most that I attract also relate to anxious attachment styles. When it takes over your mind and body and you completely lose a sense of self. I always considered my anxious attachment to be really severe. I don't really know because I don't know what it feels like for you, but I know that I have done very extreme things in the moment. I know that I have done things that I'm not proud of. I have lost time, energy, months, years thinking about people. Honestly, I would go as far to say years. In fact, it's true. Let's not deny it. So maybe I'll do a video. Maybe that's another video. If you want me to do a video on my experience with anxious attachment, then you're going to have to do the like and subscribe because then I'll know. And I'll know that you want that. So anyway, let's have an overview of the anxious attachment style. And the next few videos, will look at the other attachment styles, just FYI. So with the anxious attachment, and I will share here or here, the fears are grounded in a fear of abandonment and rejection. So that's why a lot of what I talk about is also the fear of abandonment, because when we really look deep, when we do peel back those layers, you often come to a fear of being left. The automatic response is this intense fear that takes over. You might not be aware of that in the moment because you're thinking it's about this current situation or it's about this person or this heartbreak. But really, if we were to peel it back, we see that there's an automatic experience you're having at the moment, that there's a fear that someone is leaving, you're going to be alone again, that you're not a priority, and you then feel the need to hold on tight. So that's it really briefly. I'm going to give you a little idea now of how it develops, and then I'm going to look in detail at the thoughts, the feelings, and the behaviours that are typically associated with an anxious attachment. And like I say, if you want to look at yours in detail, I have created a free course that I've tried to make it as much of a one-to-one experience as you can in this kind of format. But I definitely know it would be helpful. So if you do want to go deeper, I know it can be scary to go deeper because, well, it means change, but I promise you the change and the journey is so worth it. So anxious attachment. So typically as a child, there wasn't a secure, trusting unit. Now, it's not always the case, so please don't get lost in this. If you really can't relate to it, it's actually okay. The main thing is what's happening for you now and how you move forward. But I know that for a lot of people, they also want to kind of have an idea of where this started. So the needs weren't always met by the caregiver. It's not a blame game. It means that in moments of distress, hurt, upset, perhaps your needs weren't met. It's okay if it wasn't every time, of course. People aren't like superhuman. You didn't learn to self-soothe and take care of your own needs first. So that's why that ability to calm yourself down, that ability to take people off a pedestal can be really, really challenging for someone with an anxious attachment. It tends to be that there was quite an inconsistent, unpredictable love. So perhaps there were moments where you felt loved and you had moments of stability, but it wasn't consistent. It was very anxiety provoking. It was very uncertain. And you can see the almost like the addiction to that in later life, that you continue to be in scenarios that are unpredictable, that are hot and cold, where you're uncertain. And I don't mean addiction in the sense that you are actively going out and consciously choosing this, but unconsciously, I do mean that. So typical triggers for an anxious attachment, as you can see. So overall, it's like any perceived threat to the relationship. And I had a guest on my podcast and she was describing, it's Lessons in Love, by the way. She was describing that she should have been like a detective because she could sense every change, everything in her partners. And this is really key when it comes to anxious attachment, because you can sense change, and that is a blessing and a curse, because most of the time you will act too soon and you're not always right. So you perceive any threat to the relationship. Space and time apart can be really triggering for someone with an anxious attachment. A change in behavior, like I say, if you notice that there is kind of a shift, something that's slightly different, you'll be very alert to that. You'll know, those radars. A shift in communication, so perhaps they don't message you at the same time that they usually would. Their tone of voice is different. There's some kind of shift, some kind of change in communication, and you feel it, you're aware of it. Situations where your love interest or a significant person in your life is going to meet new people, and you might find that scary. You might find jealousy comes up. I'm going into the emotions. Situations where they might meet new people that you don't know can send you a bit wild. On the other hand, or as well as, it can be very specific people. So some of you might find that you struggle more if it's people you don't know, and other people you might find you really struggle with a specific person or group of people. So it can be a colleague, it can be someone that they go to the gym with, it might be, an ex-partner, a certain friend that you kind of feel like they've got this connection with, but there's this specific person that sends you into that cycle that you're very threatened by. If there's no plans in the diary, so this is particularly if there's dating, if you're dating. So in those early stages, I hear this a lot with my clients, when they don't know if there's any plans in the diary, if you don't know if you're going to see them again, it can be highly anxiety provoking. For me, there's another there's another kind of avenue with my anxiety, which is a fear of not just them leaving, but, and I know it sounds very extreme, but is if one of us dying, and all of a sudden that will be my, you know, what if we don't see each other again? What if this is it? And it can really be triggered by, that space and time and no plans and things like that. It might be specific times that you're triggered by. So you might find the weekends are really tough for you, for your anxiety, or evenings or Friday evenings, times when you know that they are out. There might be very specific times that you know you start to lose that sense of self and are more likely to fall into the behaviours and the thoughts that I'm going to be mentioning in just a moment. There are, of course, plenty more triggers that can set off that fear of abandonment, and I would love to know yours as well. Like, I really do. What have I not mentioned? You can put it in the comments. You can message me and let me know what it is that the triggers are for you, and I'll make sure that I add that to some kind of content for other people who might relate as well. So, anxious attachment thoughts. So when we not just become activated with our attachment styles, this is obviously what I'm talking about with relationships, but any time in your day-to-day life when you become triggered, we have automatic thoughts that are associated with that. And this is no different. But there is like a pattern of thoughts that someone with an anxious attachment falls into. It can be, typically speaking, that they are going to meet someone else. And remember, this is all going around on a loop. It's all going around very, very fast. And it's all jumbled up with like past experiences, images. There's so many, maybe even a slight thought of like, no, this is irrational. And it's a lot. It's very overwhelming. So they're going to meet someone else. I'm not important. I'm not a priority. They might change for someone else. So we have that if we're staying in something, if we're staying in a situation that we're not that happy in, where it's hot and cold, it's miserable, we might feel like they're going to change for someone else, so I have to stay here. That I'm not good enough. I'm not as good as that person. I'm not as good as their ex. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not happy enough. I'm not funny enough. In some way, I'm not enough. And that can really feed into that idea of I'm not important, I'm not a priority. You know, if you mix those things together, that you already have these thoughts that they don't care, I'm not important to them, everyone else is more important. And then on top of that, it's like, and I'm not good enough. It really creates a real sense of anxiety. It feels very real in that moment because I'm telling you, you believe these thoughts. You believe them. What are they doing? Like, where are they? What are they doing? Who are they with? You might be on this kind of loop. That not knowing can really trigger off some unhelpful behaviors as well as you try to figure out those answers. I've never felt this way. So this can be, again, if you are holding on to something, if you're really afraid of this ending, all of a sudden, you might suddenly be thinking, I've never felt this way. I can't lose this. I need this. I need them. This is, you know, you can see this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, and it becomes your whole world. And these thoughts make it your whole world. And this idea of I need them, you might really, really believe that in the moment, that they are the only thing that can make you feel better. They're the only thing that can fix this situation, that contact with them. You might have thoughts of like, this is too hard. And this can be in general as well. You might not be activated when you're thinking, you know, love is too hard. Relationships are too hard. It's too much for me. I don't want to go through this again. Because an anxious attachment, it is extremely hard, especially when it's in that moment. And then when you like someone again, even when it's going well, the anxiety with it can just feel really challenging until you learn how to heal that, how to soothe your mind, how to not believe these thoughts. It's possible. And not only that, I now have new automatic thoughts, and I don't just see this with me. I know it's really important for you to know that, for us to build the confidence in you. I see my clients, I see people in my membership having new automatic thoughts. They share it with us, that their first automatic thought wasn't to blame themselves this time. It was to take shared responsibility. You know, it was to think, actually, I am important to them, but they need this time apart from me too. It's amazing. You know, I think that you can have that idea of like, this is the only chance at love. I'm never going to find this again. And it really sets off those fears of being left behind, those fears of being on your own. That this is it and you need them. So there's a whole range of sensations and feelings that happen when you experience these thoughts, because there is such a close connection between your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviours. And when I'm talking about feelings, I'm very much talking about like the emotions, and the sensations, I'm really talking about those physical symptoms in your body, because honestly, it's so important to be able to recognize the feelings and the sensations, because they become almost like your red flags, your warning signs that you are falling into this loop, into this cycle. So you might experience feelings such as worthlessness, sadness, and it really can feel like a state of like, that worthlessness and that sadness can feel like a state of depression. It can stop you in your tracks. It can fully make you feel like you're hitting rock bottom, like to that point of despair. Like it's taken over your whole world. And like I say, you might have these little niggles of, I'm okay, I don't need to be here. But that emotion can really take over. It's usually not about this situation. And that's one of the things that really I see the biggest change in my clients very early on, is when they can start to place an appropriate amount of emotion to the current situation and current person. And that's always helpful for the other person as well, if it is impacting relationships. Anger, you know, when you experience some form of rejection or abandonment, or something has played out in your relationship, anger can be very, very normal to experience. It's a whole phase that you'll go through. Now, it will be a different experience for everyone, because some of you will feel really bad about experiencing anger. You might absolutely suppress it and not allow that rage out. Or it might even be that it's your first response and it's your only response. You don't feel the sadness because you're just immediately angry at yourself, at the world, at others. Generally just more on edge. You just feel on edge, not as able to concentrate on your life, your social activities, your friends. It can be almost like an out of body experience where you're not able to be in the moment. Which is why when it comes to healing, the current moment work is so important. Headaches from that overthinking, like just tension headaches from all of that overthinking. Sometimes in my membership, we'll start off just releasing some of that tension from our poor overthinking minds, Shaking, physical shakes, especially when it's really intense, especially when that trigger is very, very real. Perhaps you need to feel like you need to hear from someone right now, or you're having a fight with your partner right now, and it might be like taking over. The energy in your body is literally shaking. Like I said, out of body experience, that dissociation is very, very common. It's a protective factor that was put in place a long time ago to almost just take you out of this current scary situation where there's a fear of abandonment. Tight chest, people feel it in their heart a lot. People can experience like a physical pain, especially if there's heartbreak, you have experienced rejection, ghosting, I don't know, if something's happened, you can really experience that intense feeling, and it can feel like physical pain. So when you're having these thoughts and these experiences and these feelings, I'm not going to go into the detail right now of what happens, but again, that is something I could do though. So let me know that that's something you want. But really, if I was to just put it very, very briefly, you are in that moment identifying and believing the thoughts and the feelings right now, and you're lost in it. And that's why you've lost a sense of self, because your self knows this isn't real. I'm not worthless. I'm worthy no matter what happens in this situation. But you lose sense and touch with all of that. And so in those moments, you do things and you act in ways to try and get this need met. There's a need that's happening, trying to be met, a need to have contact, a need to not be abandoned, a need to be loved. And so you will do things to usually try and have that closeness again, that contact, to fix the situation, to make yourself feel better, you're trying to soothe yourself, but it's not self-soothing, it's through trying to get something externally. And so typical behaviours look like seeking closeness. And people will be very, very sneaky with their seeking closeness. You might even do that through just looking at whether they're online or not. You might do it through over texting, calling. I've had people that have shown up at their partner's workplaces. Like, you will do things to have some kind of contact. Perhaps you'll go somewhere where you know that they are going to be. It's not even necessarily to have a conversation. It might just be to see them, to be physically close to them. That can make you feel safer. Acting out or pushing away. A lot of the time, in a bid to become close, in a bid to fix this, you actually do things that are really unhelpful, and it can wind up pushing people away. Now, unconsciously, that is probably the intention. You might not believe it. However, it's not what that part of you, your true inner essence that does want that closeness and healthy relationships. Pushing away and acting out is a protective factor. So that could be like starting a fight. It could be, making them jealous, doing something that is out of character and unhelpful. Testing them is something I see a lot. Testing them to see if you are going to be abandoned, if they are going to reject you. People don't like being tested, so unfortunately, there's many times where it does wind up that they left and then say, well, yeah, I was right. But also the types of people that you're attracted to when you are anxiously attached, it's not that easy. It's not that hard to lose them because they were never really there anyway. Not for everyone. That isn't always the case. Obsessing and over-analysing. So if you can't have contact, if you've had maybe you have reached that point where it's like, I've got to do no contact, there will still be the obsessing, the over-analysing, the thinking, the trying to figure this out, and just spending your time focused on this. Daydreaming about them coming back, fantasizing about a conversation with them, things you should have said, could have said, getting really fixated on how a conversation went and what you could have done or should have done differently that you feel and believe. You might withdraw. You might actually choose to withdraw yourself. Again, that could be testing. It could be the sadness, the despair. You might withdraw yourself from people around you, from life around you. Cancel plans and just wait. You might wait for them to be contacting you, just looking at your phone, not wanting to make plans in case they happen to be free, not wanting to make plans because actually you just do want to think about this and daydream and fantasize and just go over this. Checking behaviors are really, really common. Checking their WhatsApp, checking their social media, checking to see if they've met someone new, checking to see if they've texted you back yet, checking to see what your partner is up to, checking their phone, checking, trying to seek what it is that you're looking for, in some ways prevent the abandonment, but also to prove it. Just being more on edge as well. You might find that you are a bit more fidgety. You might find that you're slower at doing things. There might just be some kind of change in how you're moving around the world. And overall quite distracted. I hear it a lot, very unable to concentrate on work, to get things done. Might need to you might call in sick. You might, all of these things because you're so distracted. So that's actually quite a brief overview. of the cycle that you can fall into when there is an anxious attachment. This isn't to scare you. It isn't to make you feel like, well, I'm never going to change. I fall into all of them. They're very common. They're very typical for someone with an anxious attachment. So it's not just you. That's the good thing about this. This means that you can change this. And the work, certainly that I do working with people is very much that holistic approach, so that we can look at those sensations and those emotions, so that we can heal, your nervous system, so that you feel safe, so that those feelings aren't normal, so that you're not attracted to the unavailable people that do trigger those feelings. To look at your behaviours, to put in practices such as one that I always talk about, the power of the pause, to be able to pause before reacting, to choose new responses, behaviours that feel more aligned with yourself and who you are, behaviours that are healthier for a relationship, and the thoughts as well, the beliefs, so that your automatic thoughts and beliefs are not that this person is leaving, or are not that you can't cope, or that you need this person to be okay. It's thoughts, developing balanced and better thoughts, that you are enough, that you can cope, that you are deserving. So like I say, to look at your own cycle of this, my free course, it's a 3-part course, probably about 90 minutes overall of your time. Hello, so this is unexpected, but the end of that video was like corrupt or something. So here we are. All I was going on to say is, if you have related to this video, then I think you will really get on well with my free 3-part course, Attachment Styles The Next Level. It is helping you to dive in and understand your cycle, your thoughts, your patterns, behaviours, feelings and sensations, everything we talked about today. It can help you understand your anxious attachment, or just relationship difficulties and struggles that you're having in general, so you can get your hands on that. I've done it as much as I can to make it like a one-to-one experience, and to help you leave feeling like supported, empowered, and like you are able to go and take your next step into your next level, to give you that confidence to move forward, especially if you're going through it right now, or if you've just had enough of the pattern that you're in. So you can get your hands on that. And yeah, here I am on the stairs of this hotel letting you know, because of a corrupt video. And what can you do? So do not forget, you're enough, you're lovable, you are so, so worthy, and you're irreplaceable.